of thousands of American servicemen were exposed to radioactive fallout during atomic bomb tests and during the cleanup of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Today, many of those atomic veterans and their families believe that they are suffering painful effects from their exposure to radiation.
The radiation level may be high, but if you follow orders, you'll be moved out in time to avoid sickness. Finally, if you receive enough gamma radiation to cause sterility or severe sickness, you'll be killed by blast, flying debris, or heat anyway.
Well, they took us out to the desert at night, and they had dug trenches, and they had us sleep by the trenches. They told us to put all protective clothing on, make sure we had it, and kneel down and put our arms on our knees, and close our eyes and keep our head down, and then the blast went off. 3, 2, 1. You could see the bones in our arms and hands and feet, even through the boots, when it went off. And then we were thrown from side to side, and then there was a terrific wind blast and more after shakes, and they told us we could get out and but not to look at the blast. And then they told us finally we could turn around with all the protective eyewear and watch it. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, but scary. There was crying from some people, a lot of praying, but most it was relief, I think. It was over, and everybody figured, well, hey, I'm okay, because nothing happened to me. I don't have any burns or anything on me, so everything must be okay.
What seems to be the trouble, soldier? You look a little bit worried.
Well, I am, Chaplain. Just a little bit.
Actually, there's no need to be worried, as the Army has taken all of the necessary precautions to see that we're perfectly safe here.
I have very chronic pains in my joints come summer and winter. I'm growing extra bones on one foot, the bone specialist told me. Every 2 years, I don't know whether it's affected that, every 2 years I have to go in and get bones cut off the bottom of my feet.
Lyman was sent to Nagasaki, I think, around 6 weeks or so after the bomb was blasted. My husband's duty was cleanup duty. He happened to be a bulldozer operator. When he was discharged, he had running sores on his head. He had lumps on his body. This would be sort of fatty lumps, and these were taken out. He was in and out of the hospital around 30 times. He had his first heart attack in his early 40s, and the fifth one finally took him.
You can never prove that one individual was exposed to radiation and then got the disease as a consequence. In the case of the bomb test veterans, it's very clear that the leukemia rate was very high.
We see pinned on your lapels here this white badge. Can you tell me what that is?
That's a film badge to determine, detect the amount of radiation you've received in the area.
And they can tell from that if you received a lethal dose.
That's right. That's right, they can.
Federal Centers for Disease Control responded to increasing public pressure. The center published a study showing a leukemia rate nearly 3 times normal among those men. Now, I'd stress that the study was looking only for leukemia, which means that when we're going to talk about other cancers, blood disorders, heart problems, bone marrow cancer, and so forth, thyroid problems, that wasn't even looked for. In general, dating on from the cleanup of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the government has pursued a policy that if we don't want to find unpleasant answers, we shouldn't ask the questions.
I'm a first-generation American, and I like my country, but I don't like all the secrecy and all the stuff. I wish they'd be more honest with us.
When they were asked to serve the government, they did unquestionably, and they would again. And all they want is fair play. And what we're told and what my husband has told me, he just felt the government has then turned his back on him.
Well, these guys and their widows and their family members deserve the same kind of compensation that would happen if a soldier had been shot in Korea or Vietnam or run over by an Army truck while in the service. they should get compensation.
Tomorrow night, veterans, their widows, and the Veterans Administration struggle over compensation benefits. I'm Keenan Block. Good night.
It's 1867.
Well, what is it?
I'm Jackie O'Ryan. Thousands of American veterans believe they've suffered a variety of diseases because of their exposure to radioactive fallout while they were in uniform. Tonight, in part 2 of the series, Barry Mitzman looks at the plight of these men and their families.
In the 1940s and 50s, the U.S. government conducted hundreds of atomic tests. 250,000 U.S. servicemen participated in the tests to determine the physical and psychological effects of the bomb.
3, 2, 1.
Did you keep your mouth shut, or did you get a mouthful of dirt?
I got a mouthful and a face full of dirt.
Very young, did you wear any type of protective clothing, or just what did you wear?
No, just regular GI white clothes.
These men, along with 2,000 Marines who cleaned up Hiroshima and Nagasaki, are known as atomic veterans. Though the government reassured them that they were in no danger, today many atomic veterans are sick. Some have died.
Lyman was sent to Nagasaki, I think, around 6 weeks or so after the bomb was blasted. My husband's duty was cleanup duty. He happened to be a bulldozer operator. He was in and out of the hospital around 30 times. He had his first heart attack in his early 40s, and the fifth one finally took him.
He said that it was terrible, that his lungs hurt constantly, his eyes were matted. They ate the food, they drank the water, they lived there was no escaping it.
Do you believe that the ultimate cause of his death was his exposure to radioactivity?
Yes. Why would he turn blue?
When did he turn blue?
The last 6 months of his life, if you would touch him, he would turn blue. They said the reason he was turning blue was because the elastic on his shorts were too tight.
Veterans who contract a service-related disease are entitled to disability benefits from the VA. Their survivors can receive death benefits. But although 3,000 atomic veterans and their families have applied, only 67 have been granted benefits.
With radiation claims, sometimes it's very, very difficult to gather that evidence which will enable us to act favorably on behalf of the client.
He was told he just didn't have enough information. He had to prove how much radiation he had. He had to prove where he was.
Can you prove any of these things?
Well, if they didn't have badges on their clothing, if they weren't given special instructions, then how does a plain average person get this information?
You can never prove that one individual was exposed to radiation and then got the disease as a consequence. In the case of the bomb test veterans, it's very clear that the leukemia rate was very high. Other cancers, blood disorders, heart problems, that wasn't even looked for. In general, dating on from the cleanup of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the government has pursued a policy that if we don't want to find unpleasant answers, we shouldn't ask the questions.
Is there political pressure to deny benefits to these men?
There's none that I'm aware of.
No one, Congress, the administration doesn't say, hold a limit on these guys, and they could cost us too much money?
No one's ever told me personally to deny any claim.
Denied VA benefits, atomic vets and their widows have few options. The VA's decisions are exempt from judicial review. The vets cannot sue to try to prove their illnesses were caused by radiation.
I think that they should admit that Sheridan gave his life for his country as much as if he'd been killed on the battlefield.
The pain and the suffering that I've seen, not just with my family, but the families that I've been touched with, is it's just undescribable.
I would like to see justice done, which is admitting that our government is responsible for these veterans.
The radiation level may be high, but if you follow orders, you'll be moved out in time to avoid sickness. Finally, if you receive enough gamma radiation to cause sterility or severe sickness, you'll be killed by blast, flying debris, or heat anyway. Well, that's the story. Don't worry about yourselves. As far as the test is concerned, you'll be okay.
The Veterans Administration recently liberalized their medical program for atomic veterans, but their benefit policy remains unchanged. I'm Jackie O'Ryan. Good night.
Tonight in the search for clues for thousands of Americans called atomic vets. They're the subject of tonight's Focus Report. Atomic vets are the soldiers who went in and secured Nagasaki and Hiroshima after the atom bombs were dropped to end World War II. Atomic vets are also the ones present during later atomic tests. There are thousands of these atomic veterans who are seriously ill and they believe dying from radiation exposure. Todd Smith has their stories and their hopes for help.
And then when the explosion went off, it scared the hell out of me. Matter of fact, I tried to dig a hole in the ground. You covered your arms and your face, and I could see through my hands. You know, by going like this, and we just hit the ground and covered everything up, you know. And then it went off. We got the heat wave and the shock waves and all this stuff.
Ron Pfau of Tacoma saw what few have seen, the unbelievable fury, the terrifying destructive power of the atom unleashed. Between 1945 and 1965, the United States exploded 235 atomic and hydrogen bombs. More than 250,000 GIs took part in those tests, so the Defense Department could see how soldiers would react.
What seems to be the trouble, soldier? You look a little bit worried.
Well, I am, Chaplain. Just a little bit.
Actually, there's no need to be worried, as the Army has taken all of the necessary precautions to see that we're perfectly safe here. It seems as though there's a minor earthquake. And then you look up and you see the fireball as it ascends up into the heaven. It's a wonderful sight to behold.
I saw the top half of a nuclear cloud. I didn't see the funnel coming up, except for maybe 20, 25 foot of it. And then it mushroomed out into a mushroom. I seen lightning bolts. It was actually pretty, what I saw.
Pfau, a young soldier in 1962, was stationed at Dugway Army Proving Ground, Utah. He didn't know his unit would be near an atomic test then. Pfau said he has been sick ever since. Today he is in pain, he says, tumors appearing all over his body. His teeth are dissolving. Doctors can't tell him why. Pfau wants federal disability, believing it was his exposure to radiation while he was in the Army that has made him sick. But the Veterans Administration and the Army say there's no fact to prove that.
They're trying to cover up a mistake, and the American government does not want to admit that they made a mistake with us, and we're the forgotten veterans. They're trying to let us all die off.
Some 2,000 soldiers who participated in the tests have applied to the VA for disability because of diseases they attribute to radiation. Only about 30 claims nationally have been approved to date.
Since